Hello. I'm going to take a minute to go over some functionality added in our 4.32 release, which is our September 30th, 2020 release cycle. Specifically, it's around quality and batch. We created a new screen called Batch Quality Inquiry. The purpose of this screen is to be able to look at all quality data around a specific batch, not just that batch, but even sub batches or intermediates that go into that batch. And I'm just going to go ahead and pick up a batch number that I've got in my demo environment, batch 378. By the way, all these are intelligent lookups, so I could just type in 378, et cetera, and it'd go find it. The idea here is it starts on the left-hand side with a tree of all of the batches that were used or generated, produced, that are related to this batch. So in this case, I happen to be looking at beer data, where the top part of it, we're packaging beer. We do some QC tests based on the finished goods coming out of this batch. Happens to be my packaging batch, and I've got 12-ounce bottles that I did some tests on. So after the beer is produced and bottled, these were the tests that I did. And then I went back and I did more tests on that same lot of finished goods. When you come down below it, you'll end up getting into consumed batches. So to make the packaged beer, for those that aren't beer folks, it actually makes bright beer that is used to package. And so to make the bright beer is fermentation. And these are the batches, the fermentation batches that we've got. So these are intermediates that have been made to supply the higher level batch, the next batch in the process. And these are the various samples that were used, that were pulled for that particular batch. So while we were processing a batch, we did those particular these samples with these test IDs. And you can continue the other, all the way down the process goes that way. The other thing to note is we also had, here we go, consumed component lot samples. So in making of a batch, there was a raw material that was in the batch that had all these QC tests done against it. So we're doing batch samples, but also component lot samples, whether they be raw materials going in the process or tests done on the end item. So all of those are put together. Now, with an understanding of the tree, what the rest of the system is doing, or rest of the screen is doing, is sharing with you the results of all those QC tests. So for example, or those samples. So for example, I'm just going to filter or group by sample number. You'll see I've got all these different samples, and I would just continue going. It's got all of these samples that have been pulled from the very beginning, all the way from introducing the ingredient, all the way through packaging. And in this case, it's probably 6 or 7 batches that come in to make this one product. So I group by sample number just to show you that we're looking at all the samples from the top all the way to the bottom. From here, I can take this and filter or sort by other areas. So for example, by test ID. If I wanted to see all these tests grouped together, I could see that. And I also have got, let me get this out of the way, hide that. I've got all of this data that I'm working with that I can see about each of these tests. Note that I've got the column selector there. The field chooser that you're used to seeing in all of our grids is here as well. So some of these columns don't resonate with me, isn't something I need to see, I can get rid of. And remember, from all of our grouping, we can do groups within groups within groups. So just kind of keep that in mind. So I did, in this case, I did this particular test under this batch, and it looks like I had 3 different samples that I did that for. So the whole purpose behind this screen really is for you to get your hands around all the quality data that it took to make a single batch, but also all the batches that were processed or lots that were consumed to go into that batch. Now, to take it a little bit further, we've got a lot of data here. If I only wanted to look at specific tests, let's say ER, just as an example, it's my first one on my list, I can open up a QC filter, and I can come in and select that and say, okay, it's no longer looking at all the QC tests. I'm only interested in this QC test to see all of my results, etc. Or of course I could pick multiples and they get added to the process. So this section is activated. It's a toggle, turns on and off by the button at the top ribbon bar, and gives me the ability to select a filter and I can hide it to get out of the way so I can show more as well. As I click into various pieces on the tree, keep an eye on the data up top because it helps me understand kind of what the sample was for, what the batch was making, things like that. Also, we've got drill back capability throughout this process. So for example, on a batch, if I've got this highlighted on the left on this batch, I can double click on it to drill back. It'll actually open up batch entry and open up that specific batch so I can see what might have gone on. We also have it on samples. So if I click on a sample, it opens up quality sample entry as well as that particular sample number. We also have the ability to restrict this data to just the entity or the node that I'm on right now, just to be able to see the data accordingly. So let me go to a batch. Oh, I need to get rid of my filters. That's what my issue is. There we go. Okay, so as I select any of the trees down here, I can use this selected, this restrict results to selected sample to help isolate the data so that I'm only looking at the individual sample that we've got. We've got some more development that's going to happen around this area, and any insight and in observations that you want to make or things that we can add, we'd be happy to hear it and put it in consideration for a future release. We do have a crystal report that ships with this screen, but it can be modified to look any way you want. Just gives us the ability to look up to provide a report name, which also gives you the ability to print a document on this data. Anyway, we hope that helps. Please give us some feedback as you use this, and if there are any questions or challenges, feel free to reach out to support. Thanks a lot and have a great day.